And I think we had a good chat all around. Like I say, we touch into all sorts of things, and I could give you the full recap, but frankly, let's keep it short and sweet so that we can get to that talk with Peter. If you're curious to hear more about my neuroses and how this interview really helped them, this particular chat with Peter, do stay tuned to the end of the interview because I'll be back and rambling away for 2 minutes before signing off. And what else is there to say, my friends? Peter Hurley's in the house. You don't want to hear me. You want to hear him. And when you have to hear me, I hope it's something reasonable and the nerves that never quite recovered, even as I picked up my confidence from that bad joke before we started rolling, don't take over and still make for a good chit-chat. I really enjoyed it. I hope you do too. Here we go. Mr. Shebang. It makes me feel, do I dare say it, Shebang! Frankly, if I was going to talk anywhere as we start up, I'd love to talk about our shared love of water. I don't sail, but I live in water whenever possible, man. How does it feel to you?
Oh, I love it. I have to be near it. I got to be in it. I got to be out on it. I got to be away from the shore. I think it rejuvenates me, and yeah, a lot of water. I'm actually like I you know how they say that it's healthy to drink like 8 glasses of water a day or whatever?
Yeah.
Which I guess works out to a gallon or something. So I got this thing that reminds you how much you have to drink all day, and I'm down to. Am I at the right time? Yeah, I'm ahead of myself.
Wicked.
I'm already there. I got to drink that every day. So I need the water internally, externally. Started doing this thing. This guy from the Netherlands does this. Wim Hof guy. Have you seen the cold showers and stuff like that? And going out and sitting in the cold weather. I did some stuff on my Instagram where I was working out in the cold, which was crazy but fun.
Cool. From Canada, I can relate to that. The Polar Bear Club.
There you go. I
Yeah.
did that. I jumped in the ocean, in the Atlantic Ocean on January 1st, and that started this whole water thing. So we'll see if it translates into my sailing. I hate sailing in cold water. So, it's just, that's just my thing. So I'm trying to get over that by doing some cold showers and stuff like that. I think it's working.
Oh, cool. So do you generally prefer to sit on the boat or in the water?
Oh yeah, I'm usually on the boat. But the boat I sail is so small that if there's any wind whatsoever, you're wet. Well, you're wet from the get-go. To put the boat in the water, you have to get wet. So the minute that you go sailing, your feet and your legs are all. I'm wet up from the waist down anyway, just because of the way we put the boats in the water.
Okay. Cool. I feel you. So you're ready to get in the boat more than hang around the water and do a swim.
Yeah, none of that. No, not for me.
Okay, fair play.
That
awesome.
water.
Yeah.
I had an indoor pool when I was growing up, and I never went in it. I would never go in there. I probably should have gone in there more often, but so it's kind of a love to be on the water, not so much in the water.
Whatever works, man. I'm guessing this is also your main therapy next to your busy life with the photos, the family, the life.
Yeah, I'd say. Yeah, I think everybody has to have an outlet, and sailing is mine.
Cool. Do you like the fact that you can't bring a camera unless you invest properly?
I actually bring my iPhone. I've been through a lot of them because I usually have it in my life jacket, and I'm doing my Instagram stories and stuff live, and it gets wet, and then I got some problems. So, but they keep getting better. So I've done better. I went down to New Zealand to sail in the World Master Games. And I left the iPhone was in a case in a bag, and I put the bag on this little inflatable boat where they had us put our bags, and I got back to it, and it was just toasted. It's just waves were crashing into that thing, and so I lost my phone, and I'm very connected to the phone as well. So I'm like all over my phone all day long, and I was like, okay, I'm in another country. I now don't have a phone. I need to find an iPhone, and I need to figure out how to get this sorted out ASAP. So it was a little bit shocking, but we got through it.
Cool. Well, where'd your love of sailing come from? I saw that you were into it for a while. You even campaigned to get into the Olympics, didn't you?
Yeah. My dad. I grew up on the Jersey Shore in a little town called Maniloking, and my dad had trained for the Olympics in sailing, and he had gotten into it because his parents My grandparents bought a house there. They moved there, and then somebody asked him to jump on a boat one day, and that was it. He loves it. He's still competitive to this day, and he jumped me in a sailboat at a young age. I think I was like 6 or 7, and the rest is history, I guess, as they say. But I took to it more. So I would go there in the summers, and then I would be in North Jersey in the winter. And the only other sport I liked was football. And so I would play football, but then I broke my leg and I stopped playing football. And then all I did was I skied a little bit in the winter, but I would sail. And then I would try and sail as much as I could in the middle of the winter. I'd go down to Florida and do this midwinter regatta. And then it was all about sailing. So in high school, I was like I felt like a misfit anyway. I wasn't in sports. I didn't think I was that cool. And I was, just concerned about my sailing, and I was really into it. So when I got to college, I went and was on the sailing team for a little bit. But then after college, I started training for the Olympics and things took off.
Awesome. It must have, well, obviously I've read up about you a little bit and known you over the years, at least in the background. I work a bubble process, so I don't dive too far into creatives until I'm in that opening up moment, but that's another topic. Yeah. Ah, damn, my ADHD kicked in just perfectly right there, and the question
There you
fell
go.
right out of my head. But it was something about boating, and it was yeah, yeah, man. Sorry about that. It was actually about the boating, I guess, in the way that it's a very technical sport as well as physical, isn't it? Especially what you're doing with those one man laser dinghies, are they called? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
do you think that was some early groundwork towards marrying up the multitasking, some of the skills that you need for photography?
It's interesting. I think it parallels it. Yeah, I think it definitely does. I actually, I worked with a psychologist. I've never been officially diagnosed with ADHD, but except for this psychologist I was working with was like, you're like a lighthouse. When the beam is on me, I'm good. But then your brain goes somewhere and you go, and I got to wait for it to come back around again. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's true. That is me. Oh, my gosh. So I found that this is an asset. So when I speak, I've been on programs about ADD and ADHD and stuff like that, and I speak about it, and I don't remember. I don't remember when it kicked in. I don't remember being like this in high school. I don't remember at all. But anyway, later in life, whenever I feel like this kicked in, I think it put my business into overdrive. And when I look through a camera, for some reason, I get very hyper focused. So it's looking through the viewfinder and specifically at a human face because I'm so intrigued by it. And it's the same thing with sailing. When you get me on a sailboat, I get hyper focused. So that's the only 2 times that you can really catch me, and the focus is set. So I find it interesting. It's something that I've been trying to dig into myself to figure out what's going on. But at the same time, I feel that if there was any portion of any genius inside me whatsoever, it was definitely coming from having that. So
Yep.
I applaud people that have it and figure out their lives and work with it. I think it really has helped me. I don't think I'd be where I am without the way my noggin works.
It's funny you say that, man. I feel exactly the same, even on my way lower level than worldwide headshot photographer. And I think ADHD, to put disability in there, is a real like false way to push it forward because, well, if you want to go abstract, and we do here on the show sometimes, if you look at how a photographer's brain should be wired, they should be looking around and they should be thinking of about 5, 6 things at one time. So with ADHD, that sort of supports it. People think you can't focus. The main problem, aside from, well, the hyperfocus is part of the gift, but it's the fact that you're not just limiting yourself to 1 or 2 things. You're trying to spin those 6 plates in your head to keep yourself entertained. For example, like when I'm working on photos or whatever else, Clubhouse has come up for a recent example. I put that on the background and I'm getting it, but I'm also like quieting the anxious or busy or whatever side of my brain that wants to jump up and do other stuff by listening in on that. And then the rest of my brain goes, okay, we can do our work in this, that, and the other. So if with some of those aspects, maybe you're on the spectrum and it's no bad thing. The hyper focus is also a giveaway because you go, there's the passion. All right, we're going, and we're going 10,000% no breaks until we hit the end. And
yeah, it's fantastic. I love hearing that. But maybe I'm losing in other areas, but who knows? I don't care. I love my life and I love the way I operate. So it's all working out well.
Yeah.
I've never taken any I've never been prescribed anything. I've never been diagnosed officially.
Sure.
So, and my friends that are saying, "Oh man, you got to get on this. You got to go see your doctor and take these tests and get on this prescription medication and stuff." And I'm like, dude, I'm like myself because of this thing. It's like I'm not messing with that. I'm not messing with that.
Yeah.
I love it, but I guess everybody's case is different. So I can't speak to the people that prescription meds do help them. So,
of course.
My thing is that I don't feel like I'm in that boat. I feel like it's an asset.
Good, man. And I've done the same and I recommend it highly. It's not an easy road, but I think also maybe you feel it too as you skip past the 30s and 40s, it starts mellowing out and averaging out, or you get a hang of it if nothing else, optimize the system. But on the medication side, I think it's down to the individual.
I don't think mine kicked in till I was in my 40s. I don't remember it being a thing when I was younger. I don't think it kicked in till I was older. I don't know. I don't even know where to go. All I do know is that when I set up meetings and stuff, people know I have it's a half hour I can handle, like 35 minutes is pretty good. 40, once I get past 40 minutes, I'm gone. I'm like, that's why when you were like, we could go for an hour or two, I was like, I have somewhere else to go, but I mean, it's like, I can't even, that's like,
it's a danger zone. Yeah, I get you.
Oh my gosh. They had me on a 4-hour Zoom call with a group last week. Yeah. Just the other day. No, it was the beginning of the week. And I enjoyed it, but I was like, this is really challenging because I was teaching, I was on a panel and they were asking us questions. So not only did you had to pay attention to the question, you had to listen to what everybody else said. And then when it came my turn, I had to, so I had to pay attention for 4 hours with like 5-minute breaks every hour. I was like, this was a challenge, and I made it through. I was like, I couldn't believe I did it without like totally spacing out 20 times, but it was about photography. So it's also that it's like, where on your totem pole of sorts, where do these things land and what's at the top for me? Photography's way up there, and teaching became this thing for me because I love to spread my message. If I can help a photographer take a better picture of a human being, because I'm a portrait guy and I care about as the thing that I'm really into is this thing about people needing to be attractive and like the way they look. And then you take a picture of them as a headshot photographer. It's a up close picture. It's like ripping the Band-Aid off on how people feel about their appearance. And I did the TEDx talk on this, on the society and stuff. So being a fault-based society. So we don't, people don't just walk around loving the way they look. And we're saddled with it at birth. So my thing is that if I can teach a photographer how to take an amazing picture of a person, maybe we can get around that. Maybe we can stop it in its tracks. If I can figure out how to stop that in its tracks, that's like my goal in life, I guess.
That makes sense.
Became my purpose, kind of my purpose.
Well, it's pretty clear by the way you're putting it out. I mean, you talk about the teaching and everything. That's been rather prolific. I caught on to you when I really started diving onto the online education world. And when I opened my photo tour, I wanted to really cram in the knowledge. So I got lit up by you. You were on Kelby 1, and I believe you still are. Man, just alone, frankly, just because I have you here and I suppose I can say it, that thing you say about 90% psychology and photography over the 10%, that is the whole truth I find while photographing people, whether it's headshots, street, reportage. I do a bunch of stuff with people, and I always have that in my brain because I've just found it resonates the most. Do you care to expand on it? How do you feel like you said it to death, but please.
Said it. I opened up a Twitter account in 2009, and I didn't know what to write in the bio, and I wrote 90% therapist, 10% photographer. And that was what I put. And that's because what I believe. I haven't really talked about it much since. I mean, I talk about it and people bring it up sometimes, but the truth is that your skill set as a photographer has to be in your back pocket when you're photographing subject. As soon as a human being's in front of you, it should be all attention on them, all hands on deck for attention on them, not on what the light's doing, what my aperture ISO and shutter speed is, none of that. It has to be 100% focused on them and what they're giving you and how to get the best out of them. So, and as a coach, I'm coaching photographers, I'm coaching my people, I'm coaching my subjects. I like coaching. I like people to benefit from it and go out the door with a product that's really great. So you have to go into that mindset. And if you're a professional and you've worked this craft, I'm constantly working on my technical, don't get me wrong, but it hasn't really changed since 2004, like very little. Like if you look at my shots then and now, it's very similar. But what has changed is a lot has changed with the way I work with my subjects. Because now, before I would, I think every photographer out there listening to this or watching this, if you are a portrait photographer and you photograph people, you kind of have a way with people. It's your way, and maybe you have some jokes or some terrible jokes like what you hit me with on the beginning of this program.
I had to try, man. I had to try. I see the big kid in you. I thought it might land.
Oh, it landed horribly, but now we're connected. Like now the difference is, but when I first got on, guys, he just hit me. I forget what the joke was. What was it? I don't know.
Oh, it was so bad I couldn't remember, and I wouldn't say it on air.
Terrible.
Yeah,
so,
it was flat.
So it's like, am I going to have to spend an hour with this guy? And now I feel like we're talking and I'm really enjoying where the conversation's going. We connected more. We had a look. It's just nice. Yeah. But that's the thing is that so let's say you were taking my picture and hit me with that. I was thrown off by it, but you would have to warm me up the other way, just as you have. You've done your research. You were having a nice conversation. We started to talk about something that I didn't expect to talk about at all, which was like the ADHD stuff. Mm-hmm. And now we're connected, right? So that's the same thing that photographers do, is that they get somebody in front of the camera and they go into this mode of, somebody told me to tell a bad joke, let me do that. And then they don't understand whether it resonates with their subject or not. And it could throw them off and the rest of the shoot could be garbage because you're just like, did I pick the right person to hire today? Now, some people will resonate with that. So you have to know your audience in a way. It's an intuitive thing that you pick up on them. And it depends, a lot of the things, as you get more people in front of your camera, you're going to get more confident. We talked about this. As you do more interviews, which you're obviously doing a bunch on this, you just gain confidence. And then that confidence drizzles onto your subject. It's the same way when you got set up and got going and stuff like that. I started to feel, and you started to ask me questions, I started to feel more confident in you as we did this. I was like, this is going to be cool. We're going to have a chat for an hour. It's going to be awesome. Right? So that is the same as a photo session. So you can't really do it in a repetitive manner per se. The psychology of it you can do in a repetitive manner, and you should. The tech part. So the way your camera's set up and the way you're shooting, your aperture, ISO, shutter speed, all of that should be exactly the same for everybody. It should just be the same. Just make it easy on yourself. Have a recipe. Do it. The thing that morphs and that needs to change on a per person basis is your direction, how you connect with that subject, how you create energy between the camera and them. And that's huge. So that's where the 90% therapist, 10% photographer comes in.
That makes a lot of sense, man. And it's funny, you hit on something. Well, I think, as I mentioned, part of the reason why I started the podcast, I do a live show, even going on Clubhouse, frankly, just after a year of a little more isolation compared to my normal social runs. Right. I'm awesome at making a lousy impression. And then usually after people know me a little while, even like you kind of feel, like you say, then it opens up. So not to dwell it on me, but please.
No, it was scary. Andy, it was scary. I was like, am I going to, this hour is going to, no, I was kidding.
It's all good, man. I'm waiting for someone to walk out. Kelby did 2 hours, and I thought after 5 minutes he's going to go, no. Yeah, but I guess to flip it into a question into your world, what do you do if it's not the right person in front of you for that joke that you start with and it falls real flat? I know you sometimes go for getting them off guard. But...
No, you backpedal. So I get a story. The other thing is that whatever you say to them has to be confident. So I don't think you were 100% confident in the joke you laid on me.
No, I was not. No,
Okay.
it was something about Mr. Hurley, and then I said, "Or is that your dad?"
Yeah, something
The
like that.
oldest of the old crap. Yeah.
I didn't know where to go with that. So I was totally thrown off by it, but you didn't lay it out confidently, or I don't know. Anyway, it was good. This is great for this. It was a great example of, if this was a photo session, I would have been thrown at the beginning. He made up for it. We're back. We're in. I'm having fun, and I feel like I feel like you hit stuff in my brain that's been really interesting. So yeah, I like where that went. Where are we now though? Because my lighthouse just went over here, and
Well,
you got to.
I said ADHD, so that's going to trigger off all sorts of neurons. No, man, we were talking about the psychology side of things, and just how making a first impression sometimes can go flat. If you made a bad joke, you backpedal if it doesn't land.
Backpedaling. Thank you. You see, you brought me back. I went over here. You brought me back. I love it.
Okay.
So yeah. So I've been shooting for a long time. I put people in. What I did was put people in a box. They'd come in, and I'd do everything in a routine. And what I found was, as a portrait photographer, you have to have, I consider it a shtick, or just a kind of the way you roll, but just kind of operation. So you've gotten people in front of your camera, you've made them laugh, you know how to do it. You're like, okay, I made them laugh this time. Let's try it again. Do the same thing. The person laughs again. Oh, I'm going to do this every time I shoot. I get it. Then that's the way you build your shtick up. But the thing is that not everybody's going to behave the same way with that information or whatever you lay on them. Like, some people won't go for jokes. Some people won't go for this or that or the other thing. So what you have to do is you have to be intuitive. You have to try and figure out, your brain is the energy between two humans is really interesting, and it can be felt. And it's something that you have to tune into to feel it. But with everything else going on in most people's brains, that's the last thing they feel. But if you teach yourself to be intuitive, and I don't know how, but I've been working on it for years now to be more intuitive. And now I feel things, and I know the direction that I want to go based on the intuitive factor that I have, that I want to go this way with this person with direction. Okay, I can't be as forceful with this person. Can't tell that dumb Hurleyisms, they're called, is the misdirection I give. So I do things like that. As a portrait photographer, there's a couple things that you don't want to say to your subject. I don't know why. It's on silent. I don't understand.
It's all good, man. It's all good.
It's silent.
I started with a bad joke. You can get away with one phone call ring. Go for it. Yeah.
So there's where was I? Threw me off.
Damn it. That ringtone did throw me off too. I guess we can swipe over. We're talking about people backpedaling.
About the setup and the backpedaling. So
Yes.
let me talk about that. So if you do everything and put everybody in a box and do everything the same way, there's just that aren't going to resonate and hit with that person. And you have to be intuitive about it, right? So, and the more people you photograph, the more you'll start to develop this muscle. I was asked to photograph Mikhail Baryshnikov, and I always like shooting celebrities. I think it's so cool. So that gets my adrenaline pumping. I think it's just cool. People in the public eye that people know, and you take a picture and they go, wow, big deal. Cool.
And celebrities and entertainers tend to be more relaxed on camera, so you must be able to jump a few steps around the usual.
It depends on the person. Some people don't like the camera, so it doesn't help you. I've had that happen as well. It's not really, some people just grit their teeth and do it and really get into it. He was fine, but the connection and the rapport and everything was.
Heavy lies the crown, sort of thing.
Okay. Okay. Sorry about that.
Don't be. It's all good. Busy guy.
So I got Baryshnikov in front of my camera, right? And I'm not as confident of a director as I am now. And I in my studio, I have the Empire State Building right out the window. So my misdirection things with people is I just tell them things so that they forget about the camera. The number one question I always get is, how do you make somebody relax? And I'm like, well, the number one way to get somebody relaxed in front of the camera is get them to forget about it. If they forget about it, they're not going to be, they're not going to be stressed at all. just make them forget about the camera. So what most photographers do is use the word, hey, you got to relax. And everybody says that. You look, and so photographers have been conditioned to already think their people are stressed because of being in front of a camera. That's just the way people train photographers. I don't know. But the minute that you call that out, have you ever had somebody say, hey, just relax for me? And you go, oh, thanks for telling me. It's better now. Oh, that's great. No, there's nothing that works for that. The only thing that will work is if they forget about the camera. So I have found that human beings like to be right more than they're concerned about their looks. So they will like to be right more than they care about the camera. So that's really interesting. So what I found was I challenged them with silly things. And how silly I get is dependent upon the person and what I'm reading off of them. This isn't that silly, but it didn't land for me. I didn't feel good, and I had to backpedal out of it just to sell you. So I got Baryshnikov in front of my camera, and I do directional stuff. So the Empire State Building is right outside my window in my studio, but I shoot all over the world, and I'll always use this line: tilt your head towards the Empire State Building. And everybody goes like, then they got to spatially think where they are. They just forgot about that camera, right? And then they might laugh, they might not. I can say funnier ones that might make them laugh, but they're going to understand where I'm going with this. So I said that to Baryshnikov, and he didn't go for it, even though it was right out his window behind him because I was shooting in New York at the Baryshnikov Art Center. Just didn't land at all because I wasn't confident saying it. It was just one of my ones, but I wasn't confident with him saying it. It didn't land, and he just looked at me like this, and I said, the Empire State Building's right outside my studio. I just say that to everybody I shoot. Just don't mind me. I'm just kind of out of it.
Confess.
Just be like, I just didn't get. If it doesn't land and it makes you feel like you're an idiot, which I felt like, is I'm going to feel better if I just say that. So I did. Yeah. And the shoot went really well. I didn't feel like it went so well during it, but immediately afterwards, he's an amazing photographer. Amazing. He started showing me his photography books, and he's got all these pictures of dancers, which are incredible. And he gave me a bunch of books. He gave me more time looking at his books than the shoot. I said, you gave me like 2 seconds out. I had like 5 minutes with you, and now we're spending more time looking at your books. He goes, you were great. Don't worry about that. Felt so much better. It was awesome. And then the pictures came out, and he loved them. And it was phenomenal. He loved the pictures, so it was really good. That was great. It was great.
Beautiful. Well, man, not to dwell on ADHD too much in the least, but I guess sort of the multitasking that I mentioned. Do you think those people skills, I mean, obviously the photography is part of it, and you've got a crew, but you're also dealing with them. Do you think that's part of your wiring, is being able to juggle all these things, look at the human psychological condition, look for the shot, composition, lighting, everything else, and tie it together? Because that's one of the benefits I feel out of the multitasking brain setup that ADHD gets labeled under.
I mean, you got to do everything. I mean, that's the thing is photography. There's a lot of layers to it. Yeah. So you're layering everything together, and it's a big deal. It's cool.
Yeah,
I love it. I'm glad I found it. I couldn't imagine not being a photographer now.
I feel precisely the same, and actually, I'd love to dig into that. I mean, you obviously, you got your photography in fairly early. You started off as a model, and then met up with Mr. Bruce Weber. I mean, that tale has been told more than a few times, but what do you take from that the most? And just that, what's that one little moment, if it all got stripped away, that you could hold on to, as far as Bruce and where it opened up your photography?
I think it was an awareness. It was just hanging out with him. It was like being at the top of the game. I was not only in front of his camera and working for Ralph Lauren and Abercrombie and Fitch and stuff, but I was also like, we became friends. So I would like go when he had a shoot and I wasn't even involved as a model or anything, I would go check it out. So, and hang out with him. And he was the one that encouraged me to pick up the camera. So I wouldn't have picked up the camera if he hadn't said that. So I don't know why he said that. I asked him one time and he was just joking. He's like, well, I just thought you'd, turn it around and take pictures of yourself, Peter. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, geez. But then a lot of models pick up cameras and have been successful. So I feel like it was a natural progression for me, and I just became the most annoying model on set once I picked up a camera, because before I didn't pay any attention to the photography. Now I'm just like, whoa, this is crazy. I'm like all about it.
Of course, once you see what goes on backstage, you understand everything front stage. I worked in catering for 10 years and I have trouble going to restaurants and fully relaxing because you can know when little things are just out of play. And I know from your bio you did some bar work, so I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. Awesome. And, well, do you think your time as a model and also with Bruce, obviously, in those early days, were you I started there a little bit. Were you gravitating towards people, I presume, pretty directly? And how do you think being a model influenced you? Do you think, like the obvious, that just being in front of the camera was opening up the process, but as you got back there?
I don't know. I think it was just an overall, I became visual. I was the same. I'm the same as everybody else. I never thought I was that good looking to do it. I got lucky and somehow it happened, and I was able to do it and have a successful modeling career. But I would be in the castings looking at all these guys, and there were beautiful women there, which was nice. I met my wife in line on a casting right behind me. I was like, this is a bonus. This is awesome. But I'm checking out these guys' faces and looking at structure and chiseled jawlines, and like, why am I competing against that dude? Oh my gosh, that's crazy. But I was like, when I picked up a camera, I was like, that'd be cool to photograph. Maybe I photograph them on that angle and this angle, and then light. So I started out shooting only men because I didn't have a makeup artist. So I didn't shoot women for a really long time. And then I got a makeup artist, and then I started with women. It's funny. I got really, my makeup artist was phenomenal, and I got really good pictures. So I got known as shooting women really well. Oh, he shoots women really well. He doesn't really shoot men. Meanwhile, the first 2.5 to 3 years of my career, I shot all guys because I didn't have a makeup artist. Mm-hmm. So it just seems incredible to me.
Did that influence, do you think that made a difference that you were mostly shooting guys over women, or both? How do you notice it? You must notice a difference, I'm guessing.
Over the course of my career, because I was a male model, I really enjoy shooting guys. Mm. I think I just have a good perspective for them and a good connection, and then getting them to be where I want. I think with the women, I love shooting the women too. It's just easier with guys because I don't use makeup, and sometimes it's just me and the guy, and my makeup artist isn't there to slow things down or get in the makeup artists are great. I need them. With the women, I get it, but it adds another element to the session. It adds a lot of time, and then there's futzing and stuff. And with guys, it's just more raw. It's more I'm shooting them, and I'm getting this cool stuff. I really enjoy shooting men and women, but I just feel like more like on a little bit more creative level with guys, if that makes sense, just because I can see myself in those shoes and I can always put myself in those positions and stuff. And it's just a little different with women. I love both my work, both with each, but there is something there from being a male model that helps me with guys.
Connects and inspires and sort of lets you get on with things, I'm guessing. Not to play the gender roles, but men sometimes tend to be a little more straightforward so that we get on with things a little quicker, like I think you mentioned. So maybe that helps how you're shooting, how you're feeling.
I think it might be just because I started shooting 2 years of men. Like I really don't remember shooting. My wife was my muse when I started, and I think I had a few women that did their own makeup, but that was about it. But I was shooting guys constantly because I was in a modeling agency where I said, I want to become a photographer. And they were like, I need to shoot these guys. And the booker there was like, well, show me what you do, and then we'll see. Maybe we'll let you shoot some of the guys. And I was like, we'll recommend you or something, or see if anybody wants to photograph with you. And I was like, okay. Mm-hmm. So I shot my friend, and I brought her the picture, and she looked at it. She goes, you can shoot whoever you want. And I was like, yes. So then I just got into it, and it was my turf. So that's, I guess.
Don't worry about it. It's 2021. We're stuck with them.
It's on. It pisses me off because it's on. I was with a client, a big client, and I was in the middle of shooting. It starts going on. I'm like, it's on silent. Like I have
Airplane mode is the only guarantee I've noticed.
Jeez.
Technology, man. Another thing to distract us, especially if you have ADHD or a version of it.
Throws me off completely.
Yeah. Have you ever had a moment where you just wanted to throw it when it did it at the wrong time? Literally get to throw? Any horror stories of a phone or otherwise going off? Super stress?
I got in a fight with my makeup artist. I threw the phone at him. I threw the phone by him, and it smashed to pieces on a pillar in the studio. We've gone through a lot.
That's part of the journey. And man, you're playing it up there in the big leagues. Let's be honest. It's not to put you on the pedestal or anything, but the reality is you're working around the world. You got a crew under you. You got a lot going on. It must be a lot to carry sometimes, if you don't mind me saying.
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes. I love it. It's good to have, mentors in my own right. Like Scott, basically, I remember going to Kelby one like the first time, and I was green, and I was like, here we go. This is like such a big deal to me. He got me up on stage speaking first for Google. I had never spoken except for in the B&H event space, and he emailed me. I never forget the email coming in. He emailed me and asked me if I would speak at this Google Plus conference, photographer conference, and I had never spoken before. And I was like, how is he like? And I like wrote it. I was like, are you sure? Because you're gonna be fine. Yes, I want you there. And then I did it, and then we were kind of off to the races with each other, and he published my book, and I have a bunch of stuff on Kelby One. But it's things like that, to have his brain to pick and to see him up on stage and see him doing it and stuff like that was a big inspiration to me. So I love it. And I'm like so cool as a cucumber on stage now. I'm so into it. Mm-hmm. And I look back at that first talk and I was like, wow. So I learn a lot from other speakers and teachers and photographers as well. I'm a student of the game, so I like to learn. I'll sap as much as I can out of anybody. I'll be like, just give me the information. I want to put it in my photography.
Yeah. Well, you have to, I think, to be, even if you're a focused creative like yourself, specializing in headshots, I think you have to look at other disciplines if you're, A, not going to get bored, B, embrace the medium just in its fullest, truest sense for yourself, for a bit of self-respect if you're putting it on your business card. And frankly, just to see other things that start inspiring you. I mean, obviously, the headshot world does get a little straightforward. Like you said, you've hit a nice stride on the technical thing. But there's always layers to discover. And if you just keep playing in the same sandboxes, you don't get any new toys. So that's good.
Well, I mean, I've created this thing that's like, I'm so proud of, as being known as this headshot guy, and then I have to produce at the highest level at that. So that's I like the challenges. I'm looking for challenges often. I find that if I'm not challenged, the boredom can seep in pretty quickly.
Fair enough. That must also be where the sports come in handy, just towards building that discipline, towards having something to bounce off of when it's not camera, headshot time, all that sort of thing. That must be part of the balance that you got to figure out.
Well, I get bamboozled half the time on the race course, so it's like, oh my gosh, you're dealing with this failure too, and
Yeah, that keeps you grounded though. You don't always want to be winning, otherwise you're gonna. The ego pops, man.
I don't know. I trained for the Olympics. I would like to be winning.
Yeah, but you're winning already. You already made it pretty damn close. What's your proudest achievement in sailing?
That's a good question. I've got two national championships, a North American championship. I mean, I was fourth at the Olympic trials, so I think I was 17th in the world. That was my best finish. I should have been like 8th, but I flipped over in the last race. Such a hard question. I was a world champion in the little boat that I sailed at age 13.
All right.
My biggest accomplishment, I guess, making the United States sailing team in 2000. I guess, although I don't know.
Okay, well, let me take that in. Good, good. I'm supposed to be. I'm not here to ask softballs, Mr. Hurley. Well, man, that's. Let me put it in perspective. If I made the national team or the headshot crew, even if I wasn't the top dog number one, and we went out and conquered the world, I'd be damn happy to already be at that level. If I got fourth into a national anything in photography or within our international world that it's all blending into, dude, I want to be number one, just like anyone who has a little self-respect. But if you at least get to that rarefied air, you're already winning, man. And then on top of it, you can go home and go back to work and say, I'm not failing over here, so I can't be no total loser. I don't think you'd be doing what you're doing if you had that loser feeling. So I think you know what I'm saying here, brother.
Yeah, no, I actually am big on failure, because if you don't, I mean, everybody says if you don't risk, you're never gonna gain anything, and you're not gonna fail. So you're gonna be sitting there and mired in a comfort zone, which doesn't get you anywhere. So I don't have any issues with failure and handling it. I use it kind of as fuel, and I call myself like a 180-degree loser sometimes. Like I feel like I lost the Olympic trials, and then I picked up a camera. So I feel like I rebound well off of these losing moments. I was a terrible actor, and I got into this situation where I was just like, it was just a sign I had to quit acting. I was like, I just got to quit this, and I got to go 100% into photography. And it was that moment on the set that just went awry that I was like, oh, okay. And that was a turnaround. You don't know it at the time, but you look back at where your biggest growth moments are. It's probably around the moment where you got hit a little bit. So I think a lot of people are going to have growth moments after this pandemic. I think that there's going to be a lot of stretching, a lot of growth, and a lot of people going, wow, that was a rough year, but hey, look at that. This wouldn't have happened if I didn't go through that. And that kind of thing's kind of cool. So we'll wait and see.
Yeah, exactly. No, I so wish you didn't have a heart out in about 10 minutes. Otherwise, I would drill into this for another 15 at the minimum. I like the open and loose format. I don't know how much you watch in the wide old world, but I love how Joe Rogan will sometimes talk for 3 hours, whether you agree with him or not. But getting into that open form conversation, that's where it gets rather interesting, because he can furlough off.
People watch these 3-hour talk. I know he's got one of the biggest podcasts out there.
It's not about that, but go on.
No, I just 3 hours on a podcast.
3 hours is a bit much, but it's interesting when you move the constraint of time to open it up a little bit and just go into that humanistic side path. Just like I could talk to you about that for 10 minutes about Clubhouse. I heard you on Clubhouse recently. In fact, I was the one who asked you about instant film cameras. If you use it to make people get more relaxed if they're camera shy.
Did. Oh, yeah, that was you.
That was me. All right. And you remember? Phew, I guess it was at least worthy for an impression.
Question, yeah.
Yeah. But that's the sort of thing where sometimes it's nice to go off the beaten track in the box and just go loose. In fact, and we could talk about this, but you do have a heart out, and I have a question just before you go. The last year for me, and even the year before the pandemic, I've been playing with this philosophy of looseness and specifically drifting. Where you don't overschedule everything. You don't overworry about everything. You obviously, hey, I can swear on my own show, and you can too. You keep your shit together and you keep the machine rolling, but you also try and embrace that zenness of just sort of floating and not overcomplicating and not overthinking and seeing where the wind takes you, especially sometimes if things are so tight that you feel that the wind can't blow through. Does that make sense?
Little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going into a little sailing analogy here.
Sailing, please.
Well, with the wind, the wind takes you here or there or wherever your rudder's steering you. Some people are haphazard. Some people, try to go straight line. And when you can't go upwind like that, they're just beating themselves up.
Yeah. Well, I found, man, if it helps, just to put a bow on it, you have a heart out, and I got to ask you the question I ask everyone on the way out the door. But I've just found for situations like when I do people photography, like when 2020 hits at the other end of extremes, the more loose and drifty I keep my mind without drifting too far, especially on important points, the more I adapt to those situations. I've always gone with the philosophy that shit happens, and the more you freak out about the shit, the more it's going to happen. Relax, take a breath, say, it's happening, and then just see where it's happening. Push against it, but don't try and blow all your energy on something that you're not going to win.
Yeah. So
that was that. Yeah. You could throw in on it, please. So, otherwise, I can ask you a question and you can run away.
Well, I have a quote that I love from Bill Gove, and he said, "Professionals are at their best regardless." And I think about that the minute that shit goes awry. So if stuff's going sideways, I'm like, I'm a professional. I got to handle this. And I never learned from an easy shoot. I never learned anything from an easy shoot. The only thing that I get on easy shoots is a little bit of inspiration for my next shoot. Like on my brain go into a higher frequency or mode where I get more creative when it's easy, because if it's easy, you're meshing with that person on an energetic level. I just did a shoot yesterday that was like crazy. I had to do a live shoot where the woman I was photographing had to catch a flight, and I was having trouble technically getting the studio set up because I was going live on Zoom on YouTube through YouTube, and I was technically having some trouble getting it set up. So we had limited time in front of the camera. We were in sync. It was like I was having some stuff go awry. I was like, I'm a professional regardless. However, the energy between her and I was perfect. So I got amazing pictures while I was flying by the seat of my pants. So it's really interesting. When you connect with your subject like that, you're able to get to another level. When you have a problem with a subject and things are going awry, you got a real issue, because the connection with the human is so important. If they don't give you anything to the camera, if there's not an energy exchange between you and them and the camera, and things are going south and they don't look good, and then it comes out visually in their appearance, their whole body language, everything, every muscle in their face, it's just tenses, and they just look uncomfortable, and you can't get that out of them. So now you've got a situation where you have to try a gazillion different things to get them to relax. And I've been in those situations. Those are the toughest. Those are the toughest.
Yeah.
But
that's sometimes how I feel doing this show, by the seat of my pants and with a bit of nerves and ADHD. But man, you've been wonderful for this. I wish we could go on. I'll let you go. I really know you have a heart out, but if I may just claim 2 more minutes, if you don't mind, I got to ask you, because I ask every single person who rolls through the doors on my photo tour as Photo Tour Bruges, and also when they drop by this Photo Life. Peter Hurley, how do you feel about your photography?
Oh my God, I love my photography. I feel really good about it right now, actually. So it comes and goes. I get to photograph people, and my purpose is to put a little skip in their step from after being in front of my camera. So that way I'm challenged. I have somebody new walk in the door every day, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with this face? What am I going to do with this personality? What am I going to do with their energy? And I've set it up so that it's more and more challenging for myself. So I'm also learning as I go, and I feel like I'm not at the end of my rope, nor ever will be with photography. So I'm going to be taking pictures for a really long time, and the fact that I'm still inspired, and I have gone through bouts of burnout, but I figured it out when I paid attention to my subject and put all my attention on them and everything off myself. Then it took everything away and made a huge difference in what I do and what I feel I'm doing. And then my energy's on them, and I don't get burnout anymore, because I feel like I said before, the human face is the most interesting thing to look at, I think. And I get inspired by that on a daily basis. So it's a cool job. I have a cool job. I think everybody holding the camera that is able to get paid for taking pictures has a cool job, and we should value that and be grateful for it.
Beautifully said, man. You're welcome to plug where people can find you, or I can insert it after the show. It's as you like. This has been a delight from start to finish.
Sure. If you're a photographer out there and you want to hang with me or learn my techniques or figure out headshots, if you're a portrait photographer and you don't have a headshot component to your work, you definitely need to add it, especially in this day and age. Everybody needs one. I can teach how to make good ones, and you can join me. I have a free trial on my site. You got no commitments, and you could try it out with full access for a week by going to headshotcrew.com.
Beautiful. And if we had more time, I would drill you on all sorts of things in photography, including the headshot crew, because I've been hearing good things and hearing good people from the crew on Clubhouse and such.
Yeah.
Peter,
well, Andy,
yeah,
we'll
please.
see you on Clubhouse, but can I end with a 3, 2, 1? Shebang!
I love it. And we couldn't have finished without one. Awesome. Let's leave it here before I fall on my face and make it all shameful. Peter Hurley, thanks so much. Anytime you are welcome and beyond. I'll see you around Clubhouse at least.
Thanks, Andy. I'll see you there.
Awesome.
I see you guys there too. Get on Clubhouse. It's pretty cool. We're having fun with it.
Yes, and make sure you follow Peter and all the headshot crew because they are hanging around in awesome rooms just for the extra bump there.
You can also follow me on Instagram at Peter_Hurley.
Which I'll also link in the description of this episode because people should be following one of the greatest headshot photographers around.
Thanks, Andy.
Pleasure, man. There we go. A chat with Mr. Peter Hurley and myself. Not totally failing. I think actually being kind of interesting, especially as I say, trying to focus beyond the usual questions and interview format that so many of these photographers have been subjected to when they've done their hard work and reached the top like Peter has. And I gotta say, kind of like I did in the intro, a very, very cathartic interview for me as far as just letting go of a lot of my neuroses towards confidence, anxiety, and falling on my face flat, even when it's semi-justified, like a poor pre-air joke to try and crack open Peter towards just enjoying himself. Yeah, definitely rewatching this interview, knowing that he was happy that we got through the whole thing, that I didn't embarrass myself too much. I think. Ooh, there might be a little bit of anxiety left. Yeah, that has definitely helped push things forward as far as getting my confidence and finally shaking off some of these boo-boo thoughts that have been in my head way too long. You know, it takes a lot sometimes to undo some of the stuff that's been thrown into your head early in life, like my particular situation has. I'm not going to get into it, and I certainly don't have that much to complain about, but I think there was a bit of faulty wiring in the early days for Andy that caused a bit of a hardwire deep down in my brain in the anxious kind of way. And frankly, I've always been my own worst enemy about it. It's just ridiculous how many times I've been worried about being worried, so I get worried, and then that worry gives me reason to worry. So at least controlling it enough as we went in a little bit shaky on the footing with Peter definitely helped put some of that anxiety to bed, and I think maybe even smother it with a pillow. And frankly, also, this is where I love the whole community aspect to life as well as photography, where we get together, where we talk, where we work things out, whether it's a lens, whether it's a aperture setting or something on the menus, or frankly, something about the photographer themselves. Peter helped me a lot with his wise words on how to handle things, and I think just generally setting an example of kicking ass and taking names and having fun while you're doing it, like I like to do, especially when I'm not staring at a camera being recorded on the audio. And then following it up with more of my community after that, with Rich, who I met over on Clubhouse just recently, and ended up shooting the shit with him, talking about stress, talking about nerves, talking about being one's own worst enemy, and having a guy like that who doesn't take that kind of shit, does not tolerate fools, and is certainly not going to be wishy-washy about telling old Andy to get over himself and just move on with things. All that has pushed things forward, not to mention last night on Clubhouse when I started my own group, This Photo Life, on Clubhouse, and ended up chatting to a few people about this very kind of worry that I get in my head. Yeah, we all get through this together, boys and girls, whether it's 2020, 2021 situations with all the madness out there, whether it's chit-chatting with someone that you might be a little bit nervous to chit-chat with, Or frankly, it's just working out what you want to do and not getting imposter syndrome on the way. When at the end of the day, like so many people have told me, and Rich was one of them flat out, I'm the only one who hears it. And it only makes things worse because it makes other people hear it. So thank you again to Peter, Rich, and everyone who's chatted with me over the last few days about this. It's really made a difference. And I'm basically not going to go arrogant prick or anything because I'm raised in Canada and the humility factor of that built into the little microchip of good manners in my neck would not let me do so. But I'm not going to get in my way anymore. I'm done. I'm finished. And if I had just gotten over this 1 or 2 days before, he says, with the amazing power of hindsight, well, it would have been an even more kick-ass talk with Hurley. But hey, saying that sort of stuff is just regressing and saying coulda, woulda, shoulda, and that's where the anxiety will get you. And you know what? I think we've spoken plenty about anxiety at the tail end of this chit-chat with Peter Hurley, who helped me wash out so much of my anxiety among so many others who have been there over the years or just recently. So I am eternally grateful for that, and I suggest you give it a go if you are having trouble with that, including when you stutter over your words. And don't worry, it all gets better and we'll all get through this together, and I wish you more power and luck than you think you may deserve. Trust me, I know. All right. That's this photo life for this 50th episode here in the beautiful month of April 2021. Hope you enjoyed one and all, and make sure to like, share, subscribe, do the notification thing if you're over on YouTube in particular, so that you can catch more episodes of this photo life. I will also remind some of you new viewers who may not have looked through the past episodes that Peter Hurley is not the first photographer we've interviewed here on this photo life. So big or small, industry name, or just someone making their way to the top, I'm always happy to talk to photographers, and doing this show for that alone has been the greatest pleasure, and certainly something that it's hard to get too anxious about, if you know what I'm saying. So check all that out, and same goes if you want to meet me in person if you're in the beautiful city of Bruges. I do Photo Tour Bruges since 2012, for grandma with the smartphone, all the way through to you working pros, maybe even at Peter Hurley's level. I've had a few big uns. Yeah, I'm here to help with the photography if you're in our beautiful city, whether it's locations, light, or just helping you out in the photo way, one way or another. So I have to throw all that in at the end of the show. That way the tax man is happy that I'm marketing my business overall, and I can write off all these cameras, microphones, and Skype calls to Peter Hurley or otherwise. And I think we've said everything we have to say. I'm just rambling at this point, aren't I? Oh no, I'm getting anxious about it. Or not. Life is short. Be you. Love yourself and love the life that loves you too. If there were any better words to get out here on, I don't know. So let's do that. Andy McSweeney of Andy McSweeney Photography and Photo Tour Bruges. You know what to do at this point, regular listeners, and here's something to do, you new listeners. It's that time. Get out there, and with confidence, get shooting. Shebang!